I think that the position of Mr. Gulen is an important antidote to the kind of fear that has emerged in an era of terrorism. Terrorists, even when they don't mean to, often provoke reactions by democratic publics to restrict civil liberties, to actually diminish tolerances. This is one of the worst effects of terrorism, that even when the terrorists don't do it to us, we often do this to ourselves. We hurt ourselves. Well, what Mr. Gulen is doing and what the Gulen Movement is doing is working against this restriction of civil liberties to sort of build tolerance in an era when we need it most.
Gulen makes a serious statement about how the democratization process, which is inevitable, can be contributed to by Islam if Islam will carefully reinterpret its own self-understanding, and how Islam can be shaped, on the other hand, by that process. And he's fairly critical of Islam from an insider's position, but he's critical in a creative way. Nothing destructive at all. He goes back to the great principles of Islam, which are never in doubt or questioned for him, but he says those can be made manifest in a world that has changed profoundly, namely globalized democracy.
Mr. Gulen, he defines worship not in a narrow sense of ritual activity, but it's everything we do as servants of God. So it could be teaching physics in Kyrgyzstan. That's when somebody does that, they're worshiping God, if that's their intention. It could be contributing, giving money so that schools could be built or a dialogue center could be built. It could be meeting people at the airport. It could be preparing lunch for visitors. Anything that we do, if we do it with an attitude of servanthood, that is, what we want to do it to please God, who is our master. That's the idea of worship.
My speech was, as much as anything else, a thank you to the Hizmet movement, to the Turkish Raindrop House in Oklahoma City, to the connections with the Confederation of Turkish Businessmen for making an incredible opportunity available, a seed for scholars, researchers, practitioners in negotiation and mediation around the world to understand a lot more about what stewardship in business is about. And so that hopefully as we continue teaching people about how business works in different places around the world, we'll have a lot more respect and understanding for the kind of Islamic cultural values that one finds everywhere. And our entryway for that were the Hizmet movement business people. They were astoundingly fine.
We want to understand the business dynamics of how many of the Gulen movement enterprises, so-called Hizmet enterprises, work. We could look at the model of Nobel Prize winner Muhammad Yunus, founder of Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, who suggests we start businesses deliberately to meet social needs, not to make money. These are not-for-profit businesses, but we try and do our social engagement work in a self-sustaining fashion. So that the businesses will pay for themselves and we can keep on expanding. And I think with the Hizmet schools we see something that's strikingly similar. The reason that there are fees and the reason the costs are paid is because this is not simply charity. There's so much need in the world that needs to be met that if we just take a charitable approach we'll soon run out of money. It strikes me as a particular stroke of genius to recognize that if we set out deliberately to meet social need but find a way of making it self-financing, we can do so much more good. And so I'm suggesting we might look at that model as a way of explaining what the Hizmet does.
I believe the Hizmet movement very clearly is on the side of the peacemakers because within Hizmet, sacred space is moral space. Wherever people are gathered together, doing the good, recognizing the beautiful, speaking the truth, that is a sacred place. And that, what I call pragmatic mysticism, is some of the deep wisdom of the movement. It's more than one, the elevator speech version, but that's in a nutshell what I'm trying to say. Sacred space is moral space.